And we're live.
Was
Uh,
that unusual?
we are as we panic count down seconds. Hi everybody. Welcome to Couch for Ed. As you know, I am Drew Tillman. Probably, maybe it could be an imposter, and I'm always joined by.
Hey, I'm Valanda. I'm not an imposter. I am definitely English. I'm definitely Valanda.
I mean, the
Hi.
bigger question is who would want to impersonate me.
Everyone, dude.
Mm,
I mean, look at the beard. I mean, of course.
maybe, but they could just steal my beard, I guess. But that would be weird.
That would be super weird. Yeah, that would be super weird.
Uh, but on a different note, today we're going to talk about The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Episode 8, which I am calling Knock Knock Knocking on Resurrection's Door, and we
I
will
was so
all
excited.
find out soon.
Oh, super good.
If you
So,
haven't caught
Drew.
up.
Drew. So, what were your second impressions of this episode?
Um, my second impression of this episode, I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time, because it has a lot of cool stuff in it,
Yes.
but Sabrina on second viewing is the whiniest teenager in the world. Please stop. How about you? What was your first impressions?
Yeah, because I didn't realize I haven't actually watched episode 8. That's where I decided, oh wait, I'll tell Drew about this and we should do it. I enjoyed it. There was so much interesting shit in here, and they did something super well. But I definitely have a note about Sabrina.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of
It's in
cool
like
stuff.
big fucking capital letters down here.
So many cool things. Well, so you know how this always goes is now we stop the stream and we go to a different stream. No, we don't.
Yeah, now we leave.
Now we leave and then we come back 4 hours later to tell you all about
Yeah.
it. How about
Um,
we just dive into it?
yeah. And do you know what the coolest thing about this episode is, Drew?
What's that?
I took notes.
I'm gonna close my notes and let you lead this one.
Be still your beating heart, people. I
Oh,
took notes. Drew, I do not want you to get overexcited about the extent of these notes. Okay.
please
So
tell.
it starts off super good. Like I'm really good at writing down like this is a scene, this is a scene because I'm like, yeah, it's so fresh because I watched it like a good 40 minutes before we started this. Like it's so fresh. I'll remember the points I'm about to make. However, once I did the possible Latin translation, I kind of stopped. So, yeah.
Okay, how about you lead to the possible Latin translation and then I'll take over.
Okay, so we open up on like the most cheesy kind of horror movie from like the 40s kind of music soundtrack. Um and Sabrina's watching a film, and it is clearly set after like the Feast of Feasts. As Ambrose comes wandering in, offering her bacon, she's like, "Hell no, I am not eating. That was super gross." And yeah, they sit there and they have a nice little kind of like a proper little cousin chat about love and life and drama, and we find out that Luke, Ambrose's love connection, has connections. He has connections of his own.
Look at that. It's like he finally got to spend a point in resources.
Yeah, but we both think that Luke is not good for him.
Well, he's definitely not good for him after being dosed with a love potion.
Oh yeah. That's why he was sitting on the couch with him at the end of the other episode.
Yeah,
I did not swig.
because Hilda dosed him with a love potion.
Yeah. Anyway, so we find out this nice little tidbit of information, this like really, I'm gonna say, well scripted little info dump there. Like, good job. It was casual and it was well done. However, whilst they're watching this movie and talking about love life and all this good stuff, Aunt Zelda comes in and announces that someone on the telephone has said that there has been an accident in the mines. Oh, Jesus. And Sabrina's like, no, I didn't know that. And Auntie is actually genuinely worried for her and says, go to him, go. She never encourages her mortal life, really, but this time, like, she realizes it's something real deep and really meaningful. I mean, they are a mining town. Everyone knows what an accident in the mines is going to be. So yeah, and then she wanders off. I liked Ambrose here. Was I love Ambrose.
I mean, when do we not like Ambrose? Like, really?
I also have like the most amazing notes towards I think the beginning in a couple of scenes time about Ambrose because yeah, love him.
All right.
Yeah, and that's basically our opening scene, really. And then I believe we cut to the mines. Well, we cut to outside the mines where loads of people are running around and we're seeing and hearing Sabrina calling out for Harvey because obviously she doesn't know what's happened to him. But because we did the Latin translation, we know he's probably going to be okay. So anyway, so I spoiled it for myself. And very, very quickly, we find that Harvey is actually okay. He's bleeding from a pretty bad scale point, but he's actually okay. And what I like about this scene, there's one thing I really like about it, and one thing I just like, it just made me laugh at the moment. That's all right. What I really like about the scene is because it really shows the community of the town that we've never really seen before. Because it's a mining town, as I've mentioned before, but the community just like rally, just everyone turns up to help. Like they may just be like making tea or looking after wounds and stuff, but everyone is there to help out in this because it's a crisis, it's their bloodline, and it's people they love and know. And it was super cool to see that.
I agree. I really like this because we get to see this small town rally, and they show up and they're all like, "Let's fix things," and it's always nice to see after a disaster people coming together and trying their best to help.
Yeah, being decent human beings. The one thing that made me laugh really freaking hard was there were obviously like a bunch of like doctors and like medical professionals going around. There was a nurse who had that hat on. They do not wear those anymore. No, just no. Please stop doing this.
Okay,
Like the nursing profession does not need this. They don't wear that. It's just good enough to have your hair tied back in a situation like this. What the fuck is that hat doing here?
Here, I can maybe explain it. And the explanation I have is that this city, as we know in the first episode, is established as it always feels like Halloween. So everyone has to basically always be wearing a costume.
So she's wearing a nurse's costume?
Yes, she is a nurse, but because it always feels like Halloween, it has to look like a costume. It can't just be like scrubs and a badge. No, she's got to have like a stereotypical nurse's outfit, like a costume.
Sure. But it doesn't stop that hat being completely wrong.
It's not a good excuse. It's more just like, I'm trying to help the writers.
I don't know why they chose it. But other than that, that was the only thing I had to like really comment about this particular scene. But yeah, it was good to see everyone come together. That was my only point. I just thought it was funny when I saw it. Anyway, so we meet up with Harvey, and bar the blood, he's actually okay. And he finds out that Tommy hasn't come out. No one else has come out but him. And what I like is that he grabs like his mining hat again and is going to go charging straight back into the mine. I think he does.
Yes, he does. He grabs his mining hat and he's like, I have to go find Tommy. I have to go in there. And he runs back into the mine to see if he can find his brother.
Yeah.
And,
I like it because we all know he's fucking terrified of that place. And he's just had it fall on top of his head.
Yep. But we know that Harvey is going to go in there and find his brother because even though he's afraid, he loves his brother very, very much. And he would do what he could for his brother. And it's so nice.
Yeah. It's a good family relationship. I love it. It's functional.
Yes.
It's
functional.
Good relationship. Functional. It's like, oh, that's what sibling love looks like. Cool. Nice.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Anyway, we see Susie and Roz turning up, and they're holding like boxes of food and stuff, and they're like, what the hell was going on? Is he okay? Yes, he's fine, but he's going to look for Tommy. And then they decide to like help set up like food and water and drink and stuff. And then we see Harvey coming back. Yes.
Yeah,
we do.
it's
Harvey coming back, and he's talking about a borehole.
yes.
I was like, cool. So they're trying to bore their way back through the collapsed mine. But as Tommy says, it's like they're all big, beefy miners.
Hold on now. In what world would we discuss Harvey as big or beefy or a miner?
Okay, so he comes back saying everyone else is a big, beefy miner. They're never going to fit through that hole. Even I can't fit through that hole.
All right, fine, better.
Yeah. And yeah, so he comes back and says like the hole is there, but no one can get through to it. We don't know what we're gonna do. Like we need better like machinery and stuff. And then we conveniently do a couple of flash cuts to Susie.
We do, as she holds a bowl of soup and looks concerned.
Yeah.
Because that's all she's doing.
Yeah, and then I was like, she's tiny. I see where this is going.
Something's gonna happen here. I understand.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. I think I know where this is going. Anyway, I think at this point, see, my notes are already beginning to fall apart, so I do apologize. So Sabrina grabs hold of Harvey's like, you're not going to do anyone any good in your horrible bloody mess. Let's go get you cleaned up. And rather than taking him to, say, a nurse or a doctor or someone with supply, she takes him back to his car and proceeds to like clean some shit up and is like, oh, that's going to need some stitches. I think she left him there.
She leaves him here because this is my favorite part. She's like, oh my god, you're bleeding really badly. They go and sit in his truck. She then like takes one look at it again and goes, oh, we need a doctor. I'm gonna go get a doctor. Thanks, Sabrina.
Go to the truck. Like, it makes no sense. But what I do like is this is the first real sign that we see that Sabrina is actually maybe an okay girlfriend. Like, like, oh my god, she's caring for someone. She's understanding and listening to his needs and, you know, putting him first and making him care about himself. And I was like, oh my god, she's actually becoming a good girlfriend. And then later on, like, my notes turn much darker.
Yeah. Telemachus says, maybe it was just me, but I wondered why Sabrina didn't ask Salem, the cat/creature, to go in and check it out. That's a good question, and the only answer I have is because plot.
Yeah. It could be plot. Let's see if we can help the writers out here. What could we do to say that why this didn't happen? Oh, he's a feral creature with his own will, so she doesn't really ever ask him to do much. Like he just appears.
Yeah, that's true. She really doesn't do. Salem's characterization in this is he just kind of does whatever he wants.
Yeah, like a real cat.
Yeah, just like
I think she asked him to do something once, and that's to like pretend to be Sabrina for a bit. But as much as like she's like, I think she's supposed to be making out this is a symbiotic relationship or something. I never see her doing something random for him. Like I never see her like leave a bottle of milk out. Scritch behind the ears, man.
You know, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if she doesn't actually have to put food out for Salem. This is a total digression, but I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't have to put food out for Salem because he would just raid the fridge when everyone's asleep.
Yeah, of course he would. He would just open it and just like, well, cream for me.
Oh, you left a ham in here? This is mine. Thank you. Anyway.
Yoink. Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I would like to see her do something random for him once. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that would be real nice, but it's not what happens.
Yeah, that's not what's gonna happen here.
No.
Anyway, so yeah, Salem is off in the whole cool plot. And we go back to Sabrina, I think meandering around, and she hears that some kid has decided to go in through the borehole. and everyone's like terrified and worried. And then we see Susie covered head to toe in soot, holding a miner's hat that looks super fucking bloody.
Yeah, Susie just comes out holding this hard hat that's covered in blood and all smashed up. And I forgot. I think it's Harvey is immediately like, "That's Tommy's hat." Like,
That's right, yeah.
okay.
She's like, it's Tommy's hat, and like they ask her why she did it. And she's like, because Aunt Dorothea told her to do it. I mean, that's what my aunt would have done. Cough.
Yeah. But then Harvey's dad shows up at this point, and he's like, "All right, everyone, just go home because everyone's tired, and everyone being here isn't helping anything. So everyone just leave, pack up, get out of here. Come on, bye,
Yeah.
go away."
It's like we can't do anything until we get better gear, I think is what he says.
Yeah, but basically he like shoos everyone off
Yeah.
just cause.
I mean, he kind of is doing the right thing here. Like everyone up here is doing nothing.
You know, I'm not saying you're wrong because this is the correct response of let's cut down on the number of people here because there's only so much. Like having just random townspeople milling about isn't helping anyone, but also sending home like just everyone is kind of pointless.
Yeah, I think he says like unless you're like one of the miners or the emergency crew or something, he has like he restricts it down to a very small amount of people. But what we actually see is everyone leaving.
Yeah, everyone's like, okay, well, bye.
Like literally everyone leaves, and Harvey's like, Dad, what the fuck are you doing? We gotta go get Tommy. What the hell is wrong with you? And Dad's like, yeah, we can't get to him right now. We need better equipment, so just leave it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he handled it well, but I get his point of view. Like,
Agreed.
It's horrible and terrible to try and sleep through that, but unless you're awake and alert, you're not really useful to anyone. His dad makes a rough call.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else like to be said for it, really. But then they have that nice little moment where, like, Sabrina and Harvey hug, and she's like, holy shit. I'm so sorry. Like, she considers him, and she's a good girlfriend at this point. She's understanding and listening. And then after that, we go back to his truck. Boy.
Oh my god, yeah. We go back to the truck where we get the explanation of what happened. And Harvey says, oh, the tunnel held just long enough for me to run out. And then it collapsed. It's almost as if somebody was watching out for me.
And she's like, someone's watching out for you. And he's like, yeah, Tommy. I'm like, yeah, Tommy.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is also where we get the full confirmation that Sabrina cast a protection spell on him. And not just mumbled a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And she actually cast a spell to protect him.
Yes.
In case we couldn't figure that out.
Yeah. I have to say huge props to whoever the fuck is playing Harvey. Because that scene, I think, probably the best acted scene I've seen in the entirety of Sabrina so far.
Yeah, I have to agree.
He's super good. Like, he freaking nails it. I have one huge problem with this scene, though. We always see Sabrina's face. Like, the whole time, it's focused on her. And this entire scene is about him explaining his thing. And I think this scene would have been so much better if we had the camera focused on him and not Sabrina.
I know what you meant.
The one that's in profile, not the one that's face on. Like, he was so good and we didn't get to see it.
I knew what you meant, but the fact that like we just see Sabrina's face.
Yeah.
Oh, that got me. It's like, I don't want to look at this girl anymore. But no, I agree. It focuses on Sabrina and her pain. And Sabrina, the poor witch who is not really... This is not her scene. Like, let's pay attention to Harvey, the boy and actor who's pouring out his soul. But no. Instead, what we do is we watch Sabrina as Harvey asks her to stay with him, and she says she'll stay all night, and that's the end of the scene. But we don't really focus on Harvey at all, because God knows the show doesn't care about its secondary characters.
It doesn't care about Harvey.
Actually, yeah, I was going to say...
It cares about Roz, it cares about Susie, and Aunt Z, and Hilda, and sparingly cast a glance over in Ambrose's direction, but never Harvey. Just never Harvey. And if there was one moment to let him earn his freaking paycheck and give him the props he deserved, this fucking it. Like, we can pick up that Sabrina feels bad from him with like a single shot.
Yes.
The bit at the end, like maybe she's holding him, like that would have been amazing, and this scene would have been so much better. But major props to like whoever's playing Harvey, just like that was good writing and it was fantastic acting.
I have to agree. We could have handled that a lot better. And instead, we jump from here to the mortuary where Sabrina's coming home and runs into Hilda. And we find out Hilda was working all night at Dr. Cerberus's because he kept it open to give the relief workers coffee and hot chocolate. Yeah. You know, keep their spirits up, basically. And then Zelda runs out.
Again, sign of the town rallying around each other.
Yeah.
She has a spider on her dress, and it's incredible.
She does. She's also holding her like Bride of Frankenstein beehive wig.
Yeah. It's super good.
Which I didn't notice until the second time I watched it, because the first time I thought she was just holding like a bag.
No,
it's a wig.
I noticed the gold spider on her shoulder, and I thought it was super cool. I love that little reference that she has a thing for spiders still. So they're hanging at the front there, and she explains that, you know, Thingy's gone home to his dad. And then Aunt Zelda turns up on the porch and is like, you better come inside. And immediately you get that sense of like, oh, they're going to drop a doozy.
Ooh. Yep, and we find out that Ambrose was astral projecting into the mine, and there are no survivors down there. Sorry, Sabrina, your boyfriend's brother's dead.
Yeah. And they're like, Sabrina brings up the point of, well, why don't we tell them so they don't like waste any more like potential lives? They don't put anyone else in danger trying to go find them. And at this point, like, Aunt Zelda tells her the hard truth, like, this is what happens when you know mortals. We can't tell them that we know because we will give ourselves away, and it's the natural order in the mortal world. Like, we have to let the natural order in the mortal world play out as it would. Like, otherwise bad shit happens.
You know, I get what she's saying, because telling them might expose the witches, but my comment on that is, the witches in this don't do anything. Like, Sabrina, for as much as she whines and complains throughout this episode, is like, why don't we use our magic to do something? And the witches are just like, yeah. Like, yeah. They don't do anything.
So, to be fair, like, I don't know what they could do, though.
No, granted.
Like, how are they going to tell them that there's no survivors? Other than perhaps collapse the borehole.
I mean, I guess they could collapse the whole mine, but not necessarily about this. Not necessarily about the telling people about the no survivors, but just like throughout this show, the witches don't do anything. They literally, except for kill each other. They keep murdering each other and complaining about how there's not enough witches anymore. Like, the only thing you guys do is kill each other. Stop it!
They're a very insular community. They don't, like, interact with the mortal world, like, at all. Like, it's just not a thing we do.
Yeah. And then that Sabrina is upset because they're not going to help Harvey or the mortals or anything. And then we go to the Kinkle's house where Harvey's got his jacket and he's going to go back to the mines. And he comes into the living room and finds his dad with some insurance agent, I would assume that's what he is.
Yep. Dude from the bank, insurance, yeah.
Yeah, turns out that his dad decides, fuck it, let's just close the whole mine. Or at least that section of the mine, and everyone's dead, let's call it quits. After, like, a day.
Yeah. Harvey, as you would expect, didn't take it well. However, I understand his anger, I understand his grief, but I also understand his dad is making a rough choice.
True.
I know that his dad is supposed to be painted to be this awful, terrible human being, but his dad has just lost in what we all know to be his favourite son. And he's making that rough choice to go, it's probably not. They're probably dead. Let's be honest. Like you're the one that ran away from this. We can't get to them. It's been more than like 12 hours, whatever the fuck it is. And if we go get them, more people could die. Like it's not an easy choice to make. It's a rough one, and his dad makes the rough choice. And I know it's supposed to be dressed up to be horrible. Maybe he is supposed to be like money grabbing asshole, but I had a little moment of like, oh
Yeah, it definitely paints him as an asshole, but it's also, if you think about it, really hard to hold on to that anger. Because, yeah, sure, maybe it is about the money, but also it could be about, like, literally, like, we could just spend more lives trying to get down there, and it's really not worth that.
yeah.
Uh, you know, there's no sign of them being alive at all, and it's just, it's more people that we might just end up dead. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to hold on to the anger of him being like a shitty person when logic dictates that
Yeah.
it might just be the best option.
Yeah. I mean, it also has a big question mark on his like I don't know, dadhood, I guess, being a good father. Like you would expect fathers to be like, no, my son, I will burn all the resources of the earth. All these motherfuckers are worth dying. He's also not that kind of father, and he's also a businessman. Like overall, he has to consider everyone in the town, not just his own kids. Um,
Yeah.
it's a rough choice, but it is a choice that has to be made, I guess, at some point. Um, anyway, super sad, and I think Harvey storms out. As
Yeah.
you would expect.
Harvey does storm out. He goes to Sabrina's house where he yells about what's happening, and we find out that his dad is throwing Tommy a funeral very soon so he can
Yes,
get the insurance check.
yes, because they can't get the insurance check until he's had a funeral.
Yep. And then we leave that scene because despite the fact that it's another good emotionally charged scene, we just abandon it because, as we said last time, the writers seem to have a slight problem with where a conversation or a scene should end.
Yeah, yeah. They've been doing sort of okay up until now in this episode, and then again they just like fantastic.
Yeah,
Well, standard chilling tales of Sabrina adventures. whatever it is.
because now we
Uh,
get a scene that, while it does go along with the plot, it does sort of further things. Could have been cut in somewhere else because what we see is the magic school, and Nick asks Agatha and Dorcas where Sabrina is, and they're like, "Oh, she's probably at that mortal thing because a witch hunter died and whatever." And then Prudence walks by and hears them talking and stares at them for a minute, and then we leave that scene. Like, it furthers the plot because it's Prudence. It's Prudence finding out that her sisters did something they shouldn't have.
and without her, more
And without
importantly.
her, could have been in a different location though, not right in the middle of a scene charged for Tommy for this very emotional thing about how Tommy feels like his dad is abandoning, or not Tommy, Harvey feels like his dad is abandoning his brother, and his dad's just an asshole. His dad just wants money. But how about you go look at these side characters that aren't going to do anything?
Right now, like
Yeah.
they've done somber so well from the very beginning of like, okay, from the very moment that we find out that like there's been an accident in the mine, right up until like I think a couple of scenes later, they do somber so freaking well. But if they have just, I understand why this scene went in here. One, furthers plot. Two, it shows a passage of time. But they could have done that like a completely different way. Like they could have gone, the clock, it's now gone forward 3, and that takes you 3 seconds.
Yes.
And they would have still kept that somber feeling of keeping that lowness there of like, and yes, we should register the fact that a very major important like side character to a side character is dead, and that's going to affect the side character that I think should have more airtime, but clearly doesn't. But yeah, it's just random, out of place, and thus the plot moves on to I believe the funeral.
Not
No,
quite
it's not.
yet. We actually go to Sabrina sitting in her room with Aunt Hilda, and Aunt Hilda is stitching her funeral dress.
Yes.
And Sabrina's asking Aunt Hilda what happens when you die.
Yeah.
Because we definitely need a really heavy conversation here about the afterlife.
Of course we do. And it's well placed, I guess. Like, if we're gonna have a conversation on what happens in the afterlife, do it just before the funeral.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's good. And basically, Aunt Hilda's like, well, I can't tell you what happens to mortals, but witches, yeah, I mean, we have this special like plot of dirt outside that's like got a bunch of blood on it. And as soon as we're buried there, like we wake back up again, we're fine. But basically, this is like a nice, really little a nice little lore dump as to why it is that she keeps coming back from the dead when her sister kills her, because they just conveniently happen to have is it called Cain's Garden?
It's the Cain pit because it's dirt from Cain's garden.
Yes, soaked with the blood of Abel.
Which
and I was like,
I just want to say, this is a really cool like bit of lore, and I really like the idea. But the part of me that's a piece of shit goes, what about soil washing away when it rains?
true.
Huh.
Magic. True.
Magic. Wouldn't it be better served if they just had like a big wooden box in the basement full of dirt?
But true. Magic.
They
don't need to. It's magic. Anyway.
Fine, the soil won't wash away and be spread too thin to actually do anything at all. It's fine, whatever.
Yeah, it's magic. Because plot. So we learned that mortals shouldn't be resurrected the same way that she is, and generally resurrection and necromancy is super bad. Don't do it. So do not do it with like mortals. Cause
I mean, Hilda's biggest thing is that it's unwise to put a mortal in the Cain pit. She doesn't say what would happen. She just says it's unwise.
Yeah,
but
like, they had this passed on through their family through like ever and ever and ever. So clearly they've had it since like biblical times.
Yeah.
So like they have to have tried it at least once, right?
I feel like they had to. I feel like somebody had to stick a mortal in there, even on accident or something, and be like, "Oh, nope, that was bad."
It was super funny because at the end, sort of like towards the end of this scene, like Aunt Hilda's like, "Don't get any ideas. I know what you're thinking." And Sabrina's like, "I've got no ideas at all. I'm not going to use this. Not going to."
I'm certainly not plotting I'm certainly not coming up with a stupid fucking plan right now.
Yeah. Anyway, stupid fucking plan or not, there's a really cute little moment where, despite all the heaviness and the dark emotions, Aunt Hilda is still Aunt Hilda, as she gets her to put her little toes, like one leggy, the other leg, into her dress, and it's amazing and adorable.
Yes. Yes.
Like, even in this like somber, dark moment, you just have that kind of like, yeah, okay, this is cool.
Aunt Hilda's always going to be Aunt Hilda.
Yeah. Now we go to the
funeral. Now we go to the people arriving for the funeral, where we see Dr. Cerberus show up, and he like talks to Aunt Hilda, and then we see Wardwell, and Sabrina talks to Wardwell and asks, "Do you think maybe the Weird Sisters murdered Tommy?" And Wardwell is like, "Probably not," in a tone of voice that conveys, "You're definitely lying."
And Sabrina confesses that she cast a spell on Harvey. He's like, "I stuck a protection spell on him, but please don't tell anyone because I think my aunts will be super angry at me." And Wardwell's like, "All right."
Yep. And then we see Ambrose be super melodramatic with Aunt Zelda, because he's standing there handing out like oh my god, what do you call these things? They're like the program, yeah. They're like that. But he's like, "Do you think mortals understand how short time is and how they're all gonna die one day?" And Zelda's like, no, they're all stupid. Maybe the artists and poets kind of get it, but they're still dumb. And then it turns out she's crying a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of the scene, despite the fact that that hints towards something much... That hints towards Zelda's backstory, and we just, like, blow past it.
Yeah.
And now we go to the funeral.
My one resounding note on that scene is Ambrose is in a fucking suit.
Yes, he's in something other than a dressing
He's
gown.
not in his dressing gown. He's not in his dressing gown / suit. He is in a genuine suit. This is supposed to convey that this is a very dark, serious moment. Like,
Oh,
he's
I mean, to be
taking it
fair, I
serious.
think Sabrina would stab him if he
Yeah.
were just in his dressing gown.
Yeah, like, this is not a dressing gown occasion.
No, this is put on a suit, Ambrose.
Ambrose, for God's sake, brush your hair, like that sort of thing. Anyway, funeral.
Now
I
we
have
go
to call out, like, holy shit, this place looks miserable.
Well, it's a funeral, so, you know, if you were thinking who died, well, we know Tommy died.
Yeah, it's like you could take like a single frame from any part of this this scene, and you would tell it's a funeral. Like, everything's dark and somber. The lighting is perfect in here. It is that kind of like yellowy, darkish kind of like tone to it. Everyone looks fucking sad. It is a beautifully shot scene. It looks real good.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my positive praise for this scene. So we have this amazing song sung by Roz.
Yep.
And it's pretty and meaningful, and I love it, and it's real nice. And then Harvey goes up to do a little, I don't know what it's called.
Eulogy?
Off my head. Eulogy, thank you. Goes up and does a eulogy for his brother, and he looks there scared and nervous, and Sabrina does it again. She casts magic on him without, like, basically telling him why. Basically, yeah, don't do this. She casts magic on him to give him power and might and strength or something. And because, like, we need to know what this says, it's done in English, of course, because no consistency on spellcasting.
None whatsoever.
So yeah, we find that he's like going to be a nice, cool thing. And then he delivers this nice little eulogy about his brother and how his brother is everything and he's a good guy and all this good stuff. And then his dad goes up, and his dad begins a similar sort of thing, and then goes, "He loved the man," and Tommy, because he's now filled with strength and bravado, is like, "Shut your face, Dad."
Yeah, it's amazing how Sabrina impulsively doing something backfired instantly.
Yeah, fucking with the lives of mortals. It's almost like everything her family have been saying about magic and mortals don't mix well is coming true.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's a short fight that ends in the classic funeral fight, which is the casket gets knocked over and pops open.
Of course, yeah.
But the only thing that comes out of the casket is the crushed mining helmet. And
Yes.
Harvey runs out of the room upset, and Sabrina runs to follow him, and Roz picks up the helmet. And then we go to, honestly, my favorite scene in the entire fucking series.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, because outside, Harvey's really upset, and Sabrina runs up to talk to him, and we find out Harvey blames himself for his brother's death because he found this acceptance letter to Notre Dame that Tommy got for a full football scholarship, but he clearly stayed behind to protect Harvey from their dad, and he's just, like, very distraught, and again, acting his fucking heart out. And then Mr. Kinkle comes outside, and he's like, "You think you can embarrass me in front of my friends?" And it's escalated a little bit, but he goes to punch Harvey, and he just stops. And when it cuts...
Like, he can't move his wrist.
He's just like...
His hand kind of moves, and you can see his elbow move, but his wrist is, like, stuck.
It's locked in place.
I'm about to punch this motherfucker. Like, his fingers are curling, but he can't do anything.
Mm-hmm. And then we hear Aunt Zelda tell him that it's a funeral and he needs to compose himself, and his guests are leaving, so he should do the same thing. And she's standing there behind him with her hand up, and when she drops her hand, he can finally move. Yeah. Aunt Zelda interfered, in the life of a mortal to stop Harvey from getting punched. And it's just this really well shot scene. It's all acted really well. Again, it hints at something from Aunt Zelda's past that we don't know anything about because we don't know anything about her.
Yep. And I think it's really good again because like in this like episode we see Aunt Z being concerned with Sabrina's welfare, and because Tommy is a big part of that. Harvey is a big part of that. Also, by extension, concerned about him because she knows how badly it will affect Sabrina, and she interferes in the life of mortal, which she never, ever, ever, ever freaking does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautifully and subtly weaved in. I was like, this is good. She has badass magic. Like, I was just stopping it from moving its hand, but it was so perfectly done and so subtly weaved into like, yeah, you don't know why you're not moving your arm, but you're gonna go with it because you're emotionally charged.
Yeah.
She works it in without being basically discovered, and it's so good. Like, that is basically the level of experience that they're okay with.
It's the only time, it's one of the few, well, very few times, we see someone competently perform magic in this show.
Yes.
I am in no way going to say Sabrina is competent at magic.
No.
The few other times we see it, there was Wardwell with the familiar, where she hid the familiar and them, and there was maybe a few, like one or two others. There's not many.
Yeah, like everything they do magic-wise always seems to have some sort of effect, like other than they'd intended, which is probably the entire point. But here, it's so beautifully crafted and weaved in. It's like, maybe this is the level of magic interference that they're supposed to actually be doing. It's supposed to be small, tiny things like this that make things slightly better without actually directly, massively interfering. In like the grand scheme of the world, him hitting his kid is probably not going to be like the end of it, but it's a shitty thing to do, so she stops it.
Yep.
Like, it's just... And you said, yeah, props to like all the actors in this, like even Sabrina.
Yep. And
but it might be a character. I don't know.
But then Harvey storms off, and Wardwell comes up out of nowhere because she's always fucking creepy. And she's like, she stops Sabrina from following Harvey and tells her that Harvey needs some time, leave him alone. And that's where we go to the next scene.
So it's about at this point
where your notes get
my
up.
notes become a little less coherent.
Okay.
I have lots of capital letters and swearing.
Please read us all the next line from your notes.
Resurrection spell? Death magic? Come on! He could leave elsewhere, for fuck's sake. She can't fix death, come on. She keeps it out of school!
Okay, now let's explain all of that. So,
Wardwell, I'm going to read between the lines here. Hang on, I'm going to read the rest of this because it pertains to this scene.
Oh, please do. Okay.
Why isn't Brina questioning why she has this if it's so fucking dark? Eye for an eye. She couldn't cross that line. Sure, because that's another thing she has to do to sate the Dark Lord and his fucking plan. Alright, so what actually happens here is she and Wardwell go to Dr. Cerberus's. And they talk about death and resurrection in a roundabout way. Like, he could come back because we haven't found the body yet. And Wardwell's like, you're talking about resurrection, and it's a deep and dark and mysterious thing. It's forbidden, and it's necromancy, and it's death magic. And Sabrina's like, but Harvey, and I need to fix all of his problems because this is about the things I'm willing to do for people I love, and we can fix this because magic, right? And Wardwell's like, I guess I have the book at school. I was like, what? And she's like, but there are one thing you have to know is, for him to come back, you have to balance the cosmic scale, and I don't think you're a murderer.
Yeah.
And I think that's the scene.
It is the scene. Also, this is probably some of the best acting that I remember from Wardwell, because she plays this scene out of just like, oh, you could do a resurrection spell, but you wouldn't want to do that. Besides, you would need a Book of the Dead, which I happen to have one laying around somewhere in my office, but it's so evil and you wouldn't want to do it, Sabrina, right?
Yeah, it's previously her subtle manipulation of Sabrina has not been so subtle. It's been like sledgehammer, but this was like truly a small amount of there was like genuine subtleness in here, because at the beginning I'm like, oh, she generally doesn't want her to do it, and then I was like, oh no, she has the book at school, of course she wants her to do it, like clearly it's a problem. But it wasn't until towards the end of that scene that I actually picked that up. I'm like, she's doing the acting thing,
she's doing the correct thing.
Yes.
And then we go to the mortuary that night, because Blackwood shows up to speak to Ambrose, because Luke came to talk to him, and apparently witches just keep dossiers on other witches for
reasons. Yep.
But we find out that the Vatican thing that Ambrose told Luke about was not a lie. Ambrose taught stage magic to Houdini.
Oh my god, yeah.
And we find out the reason. What's up?
He wrote a book of poetry at 17.
Yeah. Went to multiple universities.
Yeah, he got involved in so many things. Like, Ambrose is cool. Like, I knew he was cool, but my god, he's done so much.
Oh, he's amazing.
Of course he is.
Yeah, and then
and we find out that he was part of this plot to blow up the Vatican.
Yeah.
And that witch hunters killed his father. I'm like, oh, we've learned things about Ambrose. I'm so happy. Yay. Oh, boo that he tried to blow up the Vatican, but still.
We also find out that the reason he's under house arrest isn't just that he tried to blow up the Vatican, but that he wouldn't roll over on his fellow conspirators.
Yes.
They offered him immunity if he would just be if he would point them out, and he refused, so he was placed under house arrest.
Yeah. Also, lovely mention of the phrase of the name Crowley.
Yes.
Love it. Beautifully, subtly worked in. Like, cool. I love it.
Yeah, probably one of the best little let me just slide this in here real fast.
That was subtlety. Beautiful.
And then we get less subtle, though.
Father Blackwood goes, if you roll over now, you can still get immunity. Like, we can look at this again if you want. And then he sort of goes away to Aunt Zelda.
Yeah, because it gets real less subtle here. Because Zelda says she needs to speak to Father Blackwood. And she hasn't had a satanic confession in a while. And she talks about how she's been failing, and she tries so hard to keep the Spellmans on the right path, but there's a half-mortal and an excommunicated, and Ambrose is under house arrest, and she's just failing, and Blackwood says that he too has been failing, and then he says something that makes my eyes roll into the back of my head, and I want to die forever, because he complains about how his very, very pregnant wife hasn't been getting him off enough, and that's just awful.
Not what Satan wanted.
And I was like, oh my god, dude.
I was like, wait a minute, she's pouring out and doing a great job of pouring her heart out and going, I'm failing as the leader of this family to get everyone following the path of light. Mm-hmm. How do I fix this? And he's like, penance, get on your knees, witch. And so he's just like, I need to confess something too. I've not been getting laid. And
not
like,
really.
What is that? It's nowhere on the same level. And then one assumes they fuck.
Yeah. So that they kiss in front of a fireplace, and it cuts away from there, and it cuts to Susie waking up to the ghost of Dorothea, and it turns out Dorothea asked her to go in the mines, as she sort of hinted at. And then I do like this. Dorothea calls Susie a very brave boy.
Yeah. And
that is that's the second time that it's gotten very close to saying anything about Susie other than Susie wears boy clothes.
Yeah.
and then kind of just like, okay, I don't, do you get what we're saying? And then it goes away.
Do you have a theory about Dorothea?
I have a couple of theories about Dorothea. One of which is that one of my theories is that it's actually Wardwell.
Wardwell.
Another theory is that just somehow there's a fucking ghost hanging around.
I think it's Wardwell. I genuinely think it's Wardwell. It was the manipulation that was in there.
Yeah, there's definitely something about her because it's definitely not going to be a benevolent ghost.
Clearly there's that slight threatening manner and like not calling Susie as is, and like it just everything about this just feels wrong. I was elated, like yeah, this is gonna be cool, and then I was like, fuck, it's Wardwell.
There's one of two things. One, it's Wardwell. Two, it's actually Dorothea's ghost. But there's something about that that's going to be the problem. Like, if it's Wardwell, it's clearly just manipulation, and she's trying to drive a wedge between Sabrina and her friends. If it's an actual ghost, clearly this is going to be something to be dealt with later.
Yes. Hopefully they dedicate more time to it in season 2. I would like to see more of the side characters in season 2, but I doubt I'm going to get my wish. Anyway.
Same. Then we see a scene of Harvey ignoring a phone call.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you would.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
And that's that entire scene. Like, nothing else happens. He's getting a phone call from Sabrina, he hits ignore, and he lays back in bed. Totally understandable.
And it's a perfectly lengthed scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't go on and on. It's like, oh, here's 5 seconds. It doesn't cut much into anything. It shows the passage of time and it shows his state. Like, we don't need to know anything more than this kid is wrecked, and we see it in that not answering it, going to bed.
Yep.
Like, it did everything it needed to.
Oh, that's so good. Then we go to Roz and Sabrina at school.
Yeah.
And Roz tells Sabrina that when she picked up Tommy's hard hat, she saw a vision. And that's super weird, right? Because the vision is fake. But she was in the mine and she saw 2 creepy girls. And she saw them smash rocks on these dolls.
So, I have 2 problems with this.
Please tell me while I eat this Hershey's Kiss.
1. This may or may not be the perfect opportunity for Sabrina to tell her friend she's not insane and to tell her she is in fact a witch. There could be no better introduction than, oh, you've seen some weird shit that I know is true. How about we sit down and have a conversation? Because eventually your visions are going to go, Sabrina's a witch. And she'd probably prefer hearing it from Sabrina and then from a random ass vision. Anyway, problem number 2 with this particular visiony scene. She specifically says there were 2, not 3 girls. Why bother mentioning that?
Because she says 2 girls with lace collars, and Sabrina says, not 3? Because she only knows about the Weird Sisters together.
Super weird. Like, why would you... just...
Yeah. And then...
Anyway.
No, I agree. Because honestly, yes. Tell your friend you're a witch. Please. Let's get that over with.
Just do it. Just freaking do it. But the vision did look super cool.
It did. I liked it a lot.
It was good. I proved it. Like, yeah, I would allow that to slide through. That's good. I would take that one. Anyway. So, this is where my notes begin to get a little bit more out of control.
Is this where you did the Latin?
The Latin comes just after it, but my notes under before that are Prudence is the mastermind? Question mark. And oh fuck, everyone is conveniently involved.
You're right. Because after the scene with Roz, we cut to Sabrina in the woods, clearly summoning Prudence.
Of course, yeah.
And then she's like, hey, your 2 fucking irritating sisters murdered 5 innocent mortals, so we have to balance those scales, because you guys are talking about blood atonement, and then you won't go and kill 5 people, so blood atonement This is a cycle that doesn't make any sense anyway. Also, I kept Lady Blackwood from killing you, so you have to help me murder one of your sisters.
Yeah. And Prudence is like, all right. I think she's miffed that they did something without her. So yeah.
I think so.
So they go back to a witch school, and they pin the two weird sisters against the wall. Basically, walk up to them and don't let them leave. And Sabrina's like, "You killed someone. We're now going to balance the scales. Which one of you two did it?" And they're like, "Oh, you're not going to murder someone." And Prudence is like, "I will, bitch."
And then in my favorite part of the scene, and I'm using that word sarcastically, Nick is just like, "Are we talking about murder?" Like out of nowhere, just like, I want to be involved.
It's like, wait, you're doing resurrection spell? I'm studying necromancy. I'm gonna be involved, and we're like,
where
oh
did
boy,
you
yeah.
come
So now we have
from?
5 people.
The people in this show are masters at being creepily in the background until something happens.
Yes, exactly. Like they're hanging out until the right moment.
Yeah.
So we learned that this ritual requires 3 separate things, 3 phases.
Oh,
So
hold on. You're missing the only actual pointless scene in this whole episode.
Oh, I am?
Yes, the only actual pointless scene in this whole episode is Sabrina goes into Wardwell's office to steal the book. And Wardwell, after she steals the book, Wardwell steps out of the shadows and says, yes, she's taken one more step on her road to perdition. You didn't need this scene, and I will explain why in a moment.
Okay.
Now we go and find out about the 3 things.
All right. Okay. So we go to the woods at night. There is a pentagram in a circle. I assume chalk or I'm gonna assume chalk.
Chalk, salt, something.
Yeah, something like that. They all 5 of them, the 3 weird sisters, Nick and her, are conveniently at a point each.
Quick side note: do you wonder if they added Nick because they realized there was going to be a pentagram, and they're like, "There's only 4 of you."
Yes.
All right.
Genuinely, yes. Balance the scales out. They need to do this. So, because I was like, why would she get Wardwell to do this? Anyway, so they have the one that they're going to sacrifice, like bound and gagged and sitting at one point, and Sabrina basically is about to start the thing, and Nick's like, yeah, I've read this necromancy stuff, read exactly from the book or things go wrong. And I was like, I assume she would anyway. I mean,
no, Sabrina clearly likes to riff her spells occasionally. You know.
Yeah, she's like all freeform jazz with her spells, I guess. Anyway. So we learned that like step 1 of a resurrection spell is that they need to call the hounds of everything. I think like magic and earth and all this good stuff.
Yeah, hounds of some sort. They're hounds.
Yeah, so they basically like they called the hounds of everything they possibly could, and they start like chanting this thing, which if you translate actually says, "If you call us." Sweet, huh? Sweet. I assume it means if you call us, we come. I assume that's actually what's supposed to be. I mean, they're hounds and dogs. Like you call them, they come. Like that's going to be my assumption. I'm leaning nicely into this. I hope. And then we basically hear dogs going off and how does stuff think. Then a bunch more wind appears and things start whipping up and getting wild. And then she's like, "Now we need to open the door between." I assume life and death. I wasn't paying much attention at this point.
Yeah, life and the afterlife. They're not
right,
I think they say the door between worlds, but they're not 100% like.
Yeah, and then they chant the Latin for open door. All they're missing is sesame. That's literally it. So
Presumably because you can't say sesame in Latin.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, you could just say sesame, which would be. Yeah, it's possible. Like,
Okay, fair.
Sesame is like one word, but if you broke it down, it's 2. Anyway, whatever. And yeah, so like we get more wet and wild with like wind effects and leaves and all this good shit, because leaves are the easiest way to show wind effects naturally. And then they start like chanting a bit more because the next stage is sacrifice. Someone has to die and blood and all this good stuff. And they start chanting life is life. Yep. Which kind of makes sense. I would have thought life for life, but life is life apparently is what Google Translate tells me the Latin means. But there we go.
Well, considering we don't have any native Latin speakers, we can't confirm.
Yeah, I can't confirm. But this is Google Translate. I'm gonna trust it with everything in this show.
That's part of the charm of what's happening. So yeah.
I know. Google Translate does Sabrina. And then Sabrina gets given like this big ass like knife thing, and basically holds it against this chick's throat. And they're like, "Are you seriously gonna murder this chick?" And she's like, "I guess so." And then slits her throat.
Yep. Cool. And it is. I remember watching this the first time, and I was like, "Damn! All right, I got real dark there."
They did it! I'm like, yes! She's turning dark side. And I was like, wait, this is way too quickly. Like, in a course of like an episode, she's gone from like sweet little miss, I'm gonna do everything ever, to I'm gonna trip a bitch.
Yeah. Also, here's why that scene with Sabrina stealing the book wasn't necessary. One, we can guess where she got the book after Wardwell's little, "Oh, I have one in my office." And then the second reason is Wardwell is in the woods watching them. She could have said her dumb little line about Sabrina taking one more step down the road. Here, she didn't need to say it. Like that other scene, we could have shaved 30 seconds off this episode. Just 30 seconds that like wasn't needed, you know?
Yeah. Like it's already been set up. She already says she knows where she can get a book. Like, we didn't need that, frankly. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're catering for idiots, and we're not. Like, they're literally hand holding us through every single thing in this.
I wouldn't say every single thing, because there are times where they're just like, they'll figure it out. But then they like hold your hand and be like, "Do you understand that Sabrina is magic? Do you get that?" But then other things, they're just like, "Yeah, you'll figure it out."
Yeah, it's very
it's
weird,
inconsistent and weird what they decide that they need to hold your hand for versus what they're just like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, this is a agree of like they don't want you guessing about what they don't want you to like any like. I guess they don't want to make you feel like you're being led down the garden path and something different is actually happening when something else is happening. But
I guess
it's super random when they decide that when that's going to happen when it's not.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And the last thing from that scene though is they have to wait 13 minutes, which is just long enough for the soul to leave Agatha's body.
Yep.
And then we jump to the mortuary where they huck Agatha into a hole, and they're just like, "All right, bury her."
And as they're burying Agatha, Ambrose, busted.
The way he's walking in the scene, I was like, he looks like he's drunk and trying not to show that he's drunk. Because he's got this really wide, like, stance. And I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's weird. But he basically comes out and is like, "What the f are you doing? Like, have you really done this, Sabrina? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you are messing with shit. You have no comprehension of what the hell is going on." And she's like, nah, I got it. It's fine.
It's
like,
fine.
Nothing in this, like, nothing in the ritual about raising a freaking someone from the dead says that the sacrifice has to stay dead.
And he's like,
I was like,
which
I feel Ambrose in that moment. I really do.
I do too, because Ambrose says, "Why do you always insist that the universe has to make special rules for you?" And I feel that because Sabrina throughout this entire show has been a whiny teenager who's just like, "But I want my way."
Yes, and I don't know if it's in this bit or if it's like later on. I don't actually know where it comes in. Like, she turns to someone at some point in this episode and says, "There's nothing I wouldn't do for the people I love," and I don't know when that comes in. But
I don't remember either, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's like supposed to be like this, like, oh, like she's really serious about this. But apparently, the one thing she won't do is spend some time with Harvey. Listen to him. Be a good girlfriend. Oh, she'll kill for him. Yeah, that's fine. Like, she'll do
Not
that.
just be a good girlfriend. Be a good friend slash person.
Yeah.
When someone loses someone, just the polite thing to do is listen to them.
Yes. Spend some time with them. Listen to what they want to do. If they don't want to spend time, then don't.
That's like the
I understand
basic.
because she has. Yeah, like, it's because she has the magic to fix the thing. Doesn't mean she should. And it's life and death, man. Like, there's a natural order, as her aunt was trying to tell her. Like, you've got to let this shit slide. Like, death is a natural part of life, and it's kind of needed. Granted, this isn't good, but she's bringing Tommy back so that like Harvey won't feel so sad, which is understandable, and so that he has someone to protect him at home because he doesn't want to go back and live with his father. I'm like, the answer to that is at some point he's gonna have to move out, so maybe he should do that.
Yeah.
Bringing someone back from the dead is a very extreme option when the simple one is he doesn't live with his father anymore.
But that's too simple.
Of course, yeah.
So then Agatha comes back to life, as we would expect. And Prudence tells her to learn her fucking place, you fucking pleb. I was paraphrasing, but that's honestly what it comes down to.
Pretty much, like, she sets the alphabet here.
Yeah, and then that scene is over, because now we go to the next morning, where Hilda and Zelda have a nice little chat, and Zelda's... I mean, she's clearly quite happy. And Hilda's... Yeah. Hilda's just like, don't set the table for me, and what are you doing today, and what's going on?
She's like, I'm just gonna hang with Father Blackwood at some point. Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
He's gonna come by. And then we go to Roz and Sabrina back at school, where Roz asks Sabrina what's going on because she keeps looking at the clock. Yeah. And honestly, not really worth this scene. Scene could have been tidied up a little bit, because honestly, all that comes down to is that they're doing a fundraiser for the miners' families. That's about it.
And Roz is like bummed about it because she didn't lose anyone, so for her it's over. But if everyone else has lost someone,
actually, I remember the point of the scene, because after they talk about that, Sabrina brings up Roz's vision, and she learns about the cunning and the curse and all this other stuff. And that's the point of this that's the actual point of this scene. Where she learns about her friend's ability. Then... Again,
a beautiful moment to have told her friend
that she is a witch.
Yes, but of course that is an episode that really is going to need like an entire episode to build up to revealing, and then an entire episode of dealing with said reveal.
Yes. And then we go back to the mortuary where Blackwood shows up. And he is there for Ambrose's answer about if he's going to turn his co-conspirators over. And he won't, bless his heart. He's just so loyal, and he refuses to do it. And Blackwood loves that. He's like, bravo, my boy, come work for me because you're loyal.
Yeah, we need this in the Church of the Night. Loyalty and conviction and all this good shit. Come work in the thing, and we'll say it's community service, and then we'll work together to get you your pardon. And I was like, oh, don't trust that motherfucker. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it, Ambrose. Right. Don't do it, man.
Seems too good
no
to be
amount
true.
of pay is worth it. Don't do it, man.
Yeah, and then as Blackwood goes to leave, Zelda says she needs to speak to him on a private matter.
Of course. Yes.
Where she shows him a two-headed snail.
That's fucking cool, but so gross.
It was. And then my favorite thing is he goes, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And her response is, well, it likely means you have twin boys. Not, oh, it definitely means this. It's maybe twin boys.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she's like, this is super good news. Bone me. And he's like, no.
It's like, no. You forget yourself. I should have assigned you penance. You have a cat of nine tails around here, right?
My favorite is like, it's ready somewhere.
Yeah, she's like, well, it's in here, definitely. And she's like, but why? And he's like, flagellation. You'll flagellate me, and then I'll flagellate you, and we'll burn in exquisite penance.
And ecstasy. And I'm like, that is some kinky shit right there. And I don't know if she's into it.
I'm going to say she is, because her response is very, I'm into this.
Well, the thing is, like, initially, like, when he mentions it, her face is like, what the fuck are
Yeah,
you
but
on?
I
Like,
think that's
they know about
because
the screwing.
yeah, but that's definitely because she was expecting they would just hook up, and he was like, no, 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 hey, hold on, you don't kiss me, and he clearly is acting like he's spurning her, is what it sounds like at first, and I think that's her reaction is that she's being spurned,
Okay.
and then he's like, no, 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 I'm not spurning you, I just want to bring some toys in on this.
Oh, that's super weird.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, if you're
Anyway,
into it, cool.
yeah, no one's king shaming each
Partner,
other.
please don't bring cat of nine tails in my bedroom. I don't
Well,
mind.
I'm gonna say there are better ways to bring up kink rather than just where's your cat of nine tails? Whip me with it.
Oh yeah, I guess like the conversation of getting weird kink things into the bedroom requires a kind of smooth conversation rather than walking in and it's like, right, where's your whips? Where's the chains? I know you've got some handcuffs somewhere. If not, I've got one in my
I
back
know
pocket.
they're in here.
Like subtly work your way into it. This was not the smoothest
Yes,
move, but
there
yeah.
are
Weird.
ways to have that conversation, and there's ways to bring it up, and he did not follow any of those rules. Uh, so then we go from this to Harvey's back at school, and Sabrina sees him, and she's like, "Oh, you're back at school," and he's like, "Yeah, now everyone's looking at me like I'm that guy whose brother died in the mine." It's like, well, it's because you are Harvey.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying because everyone's treating you differently, but they're treating you like, oh no, you had a loss in the family. We're sorry.
Because
We're not gonna run up and slug you in the face and be like, what's up, nerd?
Sup, nerd? And then he'd be sad because they called him nerd because what his brother called him.
Yep. And Sabrina's excellent teenage advice is just don't give up hope.
Yeah, she tries.
Yep.
She tries.
And then we see Sabrina going back to the place of the ritual, and she looks at the effigy they had made, and nothing has happened with it.
Absolutely nothing at all.
And then she goes back to the mortuary where Ambrose is whistling a jaunty tune and polishing his shoes on the porch.
Of course.
And they have a short little talk that ends up with her saying, I went to the effigy and nothing happened. And he's like, yeah, the effigy doesn't do anything. The soul goes back to the body, wherever that would be. And then she's like, oh, the mines. He's like, you don't even know the basics, Sabrina. God, you're dumb.
Yeah. He really dresses her down, which is great because up to this point, like he's always been encouraging her and helping her because he understands that she doesn't know a lot about it. But she went and did this super dangerous fucking thing, and she didn't like consult with anyone who could have actually helped her do this.
Yep.
He wouldn't have been on board. Let's be honest. Probably wouldn't have been
See,
okay with this.
I don't know about that. I think he would have been on board. I think the thing that pissed him off is the fact that she thought she could do it her way rather than the way that has to be done. She thought, well, I can kill Agatha and then just bring her back to life, and the universe isn't going to care if I break all the rules, right?
Yeah, yeah, he dresses her down, and it's beautiful, and it's well deserved. About freaking time.
Yep.
So we then cut to Sabrina. Oh boy, oh boy, oh fuck. Is what I have written down. And she goes back to the mine, and there are wooden boards across it, but dun dun dun, the boards now have a man-shaped hole in it.
Oh no!
And my keynote here is in all caps. Where the fuck is security?
Again, yeah, where's security? Also, who boards up a mine with actual boards in this day and age?
No. Well, these guys, because they also seem to not want to afford like decent lights or anything.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, I can't argue that.
I just don't know. I don't understand. Anyway, there's a big hole in these boards, and we look at Sabrina looking like, oh no. And then we cut to a really interesting shot, which is above the Kinkles' dinner table, I guess.
Yeah.
And he and his dad are eating some food, and we hear this slow, ominous knocking at the door of the Kinkles.
Yep. Just dum dum.
So we see one of them get up and head
Harvey.
towards the door. I want to say Harvey.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets up and goes towards the door, and it's this slow, really ominous, heavy knocking. And the last shot we see is his hand on the door handle.
Yep.
And he like turns it and opens it. I would like to say even if he has come back as some sort of zombie or some sort of evil thing, at least he didn't attend the evil guy's entrance school. Because you know he would have just kicked down that door and there would have been zombie Tommy right there.
It would
He
have
did
been.
not attend that evil school.
It would have been in the middle of a conversation about how much somebody misses Tommy, and he'd kick the door and he'd be like, "You miss me,
You thought I was dead? No.
bitch! You thought you saw the last of me."
Yeah.
Oh,
I have to be honest, I really wanted to watch the next episode because I wanted to see what was at the door. And the next episode rolled on, and the first 3 seconds I heard was knocking at the door, which was so very different to how this episode ends. I was a little disappointed, so I hit stop before I found out what happened.
Well, you know what, Valanda? We covered this episode. We're gonna find out what happens next week. But I have to ask you, how would you rate this episode?
Genuinely, I actually kind of really liked it. Like, I know we've torn holes in Sabrina, but it is technically her show. It should be about her, but the side acting in this was so effing spot on. Like, the subtle weaving in of like Aunt Z's things is so good. We get to see more of Ambrose, which I love and adore. And we see Sabrina take more of those steps, being masterfully manipulated by Wardwell, who like steps up the game on acting this time around. I'm gonna give it a solid I'm gonna say 4. I was gonna say 3.5, but I think we're gonna give it 4 because I genuinely did like and enjoy this episode. So there you go.
I'm also gonna give it a 4. So I think the first time in 3 weeks our scores have matched up again.
Yeah.
I agree. I liked this episode. I liked it the first time I watched it. I liked it this time. My biggest complaint about this episode is, Sabrina, why are you such a whiny teenager? Like, to the point of you make everything so much worse because you think you're special, and it's like, you're not. Please stop.
The thing is, probably is. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely got a prophecy about her out there. But
yeah, I mean, the show is all about her. It's literally a show about a teenage witch. Like, it's not an ensemble cast. It is a here's the main character.
Okay.
Here's the
that's
character.
fair.
Yeah, it's not like.
And I'm sure there is a. Sure, there's a prophecy out there. We're aware there's a prophecy out there about her. But the problem is she doesn't know about the prophecy. We don't know what the prophecy is. All we know is that Sabrina thinks she's real important. And that if she whatever she does, the universe will just let it happen.
Yeah, it's like there'll be no consequences to this stuff. Of course not.
But that being said,
I mean, she's supposed to be the rule breaker, the changer, the person that brings in like the biggest changes and stuff. But I still see her in episode like 10 or whatever it is, like signing the Book of the Devil, because she vehemently said she wouldn't do that, and I have a feeling it's gonna happen.
That being said,
there's just a bit of my can happen.
Oh, 100%. And yeah, I like this episode. Also, props for this episode. Gave it a little bit boost point in the fact that this episode clearly is going to roll over and be continued in the next episode. We finally, after 6 episodes of setup, have a story that's rolling.
Yes. This didn't feel like a setup. It felt like a story, and I was so happy. It didn't feel like, oh, you could cut this episode out of the rest of the series and not like, no, it's not one of those. It's super good, and the pacing is much better. I mean, there were still bits where it's like, the acting was effing spot on in this. Like, their somber setup, like at the very beginning of this episode, was amazing. It was super good, and I loved a lot about this episode. Probably apart from Sabrina and the premise of like she has to fix everything because she can, and I think she's about to find out why she can't.
Yeah, we've reached the top of the slide, and now finally, at the very end of 10 hours, we're gonna go down the slide.
Yes, I hope there's a loop-de-loop in there. Like, there's a bit of me that needs this to make this really steep climb worth it.
I want to compare.
There were points in the series I was like, no, I don't think I want to watch anymore. And now I'm like, I want to watch the next episode, but I have to wait until next week.
I'm gonna do a quick comparison. In Lost in Space, we had several ups and downs where they got to the point where they were like, now the story will take over, but then they were just like, wait, no, hold on, we got to go back to the top because we forgot something. And Altered Carbon was like 3 episodes in, like, get the fuck down the slide, go. You'll figure out the rest real quick.
Yeah.
This one has taken 6 hours to get to the point where it's like, and now a story. It's like, thanks, I guess.
I guess roller coaster ride. Like, so like, I
Ooh,
guess
equivalent.
like, for me, Altered Carbon is like that one that goes from like 0 to 60
Yes.
in like hardly any time at all.
Uh-huh.
Like it goes to 60 and then does a huge drop like
Yes.
instantly straight away. Like here's 3 episodes and boom, but you're still going at 60 miles an hour and it's super freaking awesome. I guess
Lost in
Sabrina's
Space would be
more...
a wooden roller coaster, so a lot of hills. Just a lot
Oh
of...
yeah, it's gonna be one of those like pier ones that like
Yeah.
we have a place like Blackpool Pier Amusements or something.
Yeah.
And there is like the oldest like wooden roller coaster there, and my god, it hurts.
Yep.
It just physically hurts.
Sabrina, I wouldn't even say is a roller coaster. I'd say Sabrina is one of those like free fall drop things where you sit in the chair and it takes you up and it holds you there for like an indeterminate amount of time and then drops you. Sabrina is one of those.
We have one here called Oblivion in Chessington, and it literally like you go very 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 slowly like around like this bend, and then you stop, and then the whole thing just like pivots 90 degrees until you're looking down, and then it gives you a countdown. And then it drops you, just like free fall, just drops you. That's it, you're gone. Like, I'm hoping that happens. This is gonna be lame.
I'm definitely out of things to say for this week, Rolanda. I don't know about you.
I think I'm out too. Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Well, if you want to start with the bits, we'll start rolling this into a close.
All right, cool. So you can find me on Twitter at volley_londa. You can find the new episode of The Lucky Die coming out tomorrow, and I'm super excited because it's super gory and gross, and I effing love it. And the players did a real fuck you view to me, and I loved it. It was amazing. So please listen to that. The season finale of the White Vault came out last week on General Listen. If you haven't listened to it so far, please do, because it's amazing, and Aethel pulls out the best fucking performance I've ever heard out of that guy. It's so freaking good. Other than that, I think the only other time you can catch me is actually going to be next Sunday. Yeah. And that's me done, dude.
Well, I'm Drew Tillman, and you can find me on Twitter at my new Twitter handle, which is cyber_Sasquatch. Also, I'm going to say yes, if you haven't been listening to The White Vault, please go listen. I listened to the finale, and I was like, but questions? Please go check it out.
We have to see Recraft afterwards, because I'm as caught up as you are.
Good, we need to talk about this. And then, other than that, you can also find me on Taking Initiative, which... if you are listening to, the last episode comes out, I believe, next Monday. Not the last episode, sorry. The finale of Curse of Strahd comes out, I believe, next Monday. We have made it to the end of Curse of Strahd. It's very exciting.
How many characters have you had?
Well, I can't tell you that because we don't know what happens at the end yet.
God damn it.
But up to this point, I'm on my 4th character in this campaign.
Boy.
Also, Telemachus says the first 6 episodes of Sabrina is waiting in queue just to go down a tall slide.
One of those helter-skelters.
Yeah.
You get on the pit, you have to like take... Yeah.
take the barrel upside. Yeah. Yeah, you can find me on Taking Initiative. Listen to The White Vault. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with 9. What? Yes, 9. Episode 9.
Episode 9, yeah. Episode 9.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you all next week. Bye!
Bye!